Hello and welcome to my latest video about performance anxiety. We all suffer from it from time to time, and let's just get right into it and deal with it and learn how to minimize its effects on our performances as much as we possibly can. There is no one correct way to deal with it, because a level of anxiety is good and it's what gives us a heightened level of focus essential for performing to our absolute top ability, but it can become a hindrance and overwhelming and affect our performance. It's really important that we try different methods and combinations of things to see what works best for us, because we're all different and it's not one size fits all, pardon the pun. But the one thing, the biggest mistake that everybody makes when it comes to improving our anxiety in performance is not performing enough. So fear, anxiety comes from worrying that we're going to go wrong, but the confidence needed to minimize that fear does literally come by practicing dealing with the nerves, which do over time get better. They're not ever going to completely disappear because, like I said earlier, we need a level of them to perform to our ultimate level, but some anxiety is good. But the only way to get better at that is regular practice, like any other skill. I found this out least of all during lockdown, when none of us had really performed other than online for quite some time. And I remember my first concert, just how nervous I was, and it was only the confidence in my ability, having performed regularly prior to lockdown, that got me through. But it was really hard, and then it reminded myself how important the regular performing is when I then started to get back into regular performing, and how much more comfortable and how much more at ease I felt. Now, whichever methods you find work for you, it's really important to remember that there's nothing wrong with them and that they are valid, and you shouldn't worry about what anybody else thinks about your rituals and routines. Mine is, more often than not, just being quiet for varying degrees of time leading up to a concert, depending on how nervous I am. And I prefer not to talk to people, and it can come across rude because my answers might be short, or I just try and take myself off somewhere else where I'm not going to be bothered. But that's how I get my focus, how I calm myself down, is just taking time to breathe and focus on nothing but what I'm about to do. Some people find it useful to run through passages of the music that they're worried about beforehand, before the performance, to kind of assure themselves that they can do it. Whereas others can actually make themselves feel worse and more panicked and more anxious about the performance by doing this, because it could go wrong because of those nerves, which then just spirals and makes them really difficult to deal with. Like I said, my preferred method of dealing with anxiety is basically time to myself, not speaking to people. It's not always possible, particularly if you're helping put a concert together. You've got other jobs other than performing to deal with. But sometimes I like to listen to music on headphones, blocking everything out, and it can be relaxing music, or I might even listen to some Eminem and get myself really pumped up. I don't have one way that I always prepare every single time. It just depends on the severity of my nerves, and sometimes you just have to go with how you feel on the day. So I just pick and choose, but generally I do prefer to be nice and quiet. Another thing to remember is not to look at other people and think, wow, they're really confident. That makes me kind of almost feel even worse that I don't. What you got to remember is that no matter how confident a musician may appear to you, we all feel anxiety to some degree. Some of us have just learned to deal with it and cope with it and use it to our benefit better than others, but it's just a journey. So it's completely normal. It's just about making it manageable and making it work for us. But don't think for 1 second, just because you see somebody sit, appear confident and play with confidence, it doesn't mean that their heart isn't racing, their head's sweating, and they're hoping to some degree for it to be over. And then afterwards, realising how much they actually enjoyed it and wish they could just do it again, but without feeling quite so scared. I think one of the most important things that I've done to prepare for something going wrong during a performance, which is generally due to anxiety, if it's due to lack of preparation, there's not a lot you can do about that. You have to be prepared. But if something did happen in a performance and you froze, or it just went wrong and you just couldn't get into the next bit, you need to have marked on your musical places, clearly marked, that you can jump to in the event of something going wrong in and around that area. Because rather than dwelling on what's happened and trying to get yourself back into it, which will just make you feel more anxious and make the audience feel more on edge for you as well, you just get yourself to a place where you know I've practiced going from there, and you can just carry on and continue the performance as it was in the first place. So, perform as often as you can and experiment with what works for you. Let me know in the comments what works for you, what you've found hasn't worked, what does work, what different combinations you use, and do please give this video a like and do subscribe to the channel and check out my other videos. Thanks guys.